We're good. We have a quorum and vote.
Can
Start.
Good.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm wearing multiple hats today. I'll be the board secretary today, as well as the regulatory coordinator, talking to you all about some policies, some regulations that we have that we're proposing to move forward to the public comment period. So I'm going to start with the policy committee. I'll call that meeting to order. Like Director Hamilton said, we have a quorum today. So sorry, it's a little confusing because all of the regulations are a little tied together. But we're going to start with 1.15 first with the policy committee, and then I'll address 502 and 702 with the strategy committee.
Ms. Robbins, will you identify the members of the policy committee?
Yes, we have Ms. Candace Show White and Mr. Charles Bertelon for the policy committee online. Okay. Well, today for you all, I have proposed changes to regulation 1.15, which will incorporate by reference Title 40 of Code of Federal Regulations. Because our district regulations do not evergreen, this process will allow the district to adopt the most recent version of the federal rules by referring to the already published federal version. If approved, regulation 1.15 will be updated to incorporate by reference all federal regulations in CFR Title 40 as of July 1st, 2024. So absent any questions at this time, I would ask for a motion to open the public comment period for 30 days for regulation 1.15.
Mr. Bertelon or Ms. Show White?
Yeah,
Are
I
there
second that
questions?
motion.
Oh, did someone make a motion?
Yes, I said I can second that motion to open.
Okay, did, Mr. Bertelon, are we
He's
able to
having
hear you?
Audio issues. Shaking his head.
We see Mr. Bertelon as a panelist. However, he is seeing himself as a participant, which means his video or his audio is not active. So though we can see his video, we can't hear his audio at the moment.
How do we correct that, Andy?
It seems that he is connected on our end as a panelist, which means he should have full control. But he's telling me that he's showing up as a participant on his end, which means his audio is not active.
Chair ex officio, the chair can also.
Okay,
I can make a motion. I'll make the motion.
okay. And
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Candace has seconded that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, and now I will adjourn the policy committee meeting. So thank you all. And we will be
Vote on it. We had a motion.
Go vote.
vote on. Yeah, okay. All right. Normally, it's just the motion, it's seconded, and then it opens the comment period. I could be wrong.
We can take a vote, just.
Okay. Yeah. go ahead. Okay.
Okay. All in favor? Say aye, or put your thumb up, Charlie.
Aye.
Okay,
You can't hear anything?
We have
Okay.
to type.
all right,
You can also vote.
Aye.
we're good.
Great, great. Thank you all.
Nope, we'll close the,
Yes, adjourn the policy committee meeting and move on to the strategy committee meeting. So I will call that meeting to order, recognize the quorum. We have Dr. Jeffrey Coburn here in person. We have Martha Neal on WebEx. Thank you all. Like the proposed change to regulation 1.15, the proposed changes to 5.02 and 702 will incorporate by reference Title 40 Code of Federal Regulations. As you will note, there are no substantive changes being proposed to the text of Regulation 502, but by modifying 1.15, 40 CFR 61 and 40 CFR 63 will be incorporated by reference in 5.02. So as with Regulation 1.15, this will allow us to continue referring to the federal rules we cite in their most current and updated forms. However, with Regulation 702, that will be revised in the following ways. The subparts and appendices of 40 CFR 60 that the district does not have jurisdiction to enforce or implement will be removed as they are being retained and enforced by EPA, namely 40 CFR Part 60 subpart CF and 40 CFR Part 60 appendices A, B, C, D, F, and I. Furthermore, sections in the delegable MSPS subparts, which aren't and cannot be delegated by EPA to the district, will now be more clearly identified at the end of section 3, as EPA has retained that authority. So absent any questions at this time, I would again ask for a motion to open the public comment period for 30 days for regulations 502 and 702.
I'll make a motion to open the comment period.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll second.
Thank you both. But this time we'll vote. Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
The wonderful technology.
Thank you. Thank you.
What was that?
All right, then at this time, we will adjourn the strategy committee meeting. Thank you all.
The first thing on the agenda this morning is the public hearing. This public hearing is held by the Louisville Metro Air Pollution Control Board. It's called to order and is being held pursuant to KRS Chapter 77 and district regulations. Notice of this hearing has been published pursuant to state law. This public hearing is being held via video teleconference. Instructions of making written and oral statements on the video teleconference have been distributed. Oral statements must be presented today. Statements should be concise and all statements will become part of the record. There's one agreed board order to be reviewed today. Would the staff present the agreed board order with United Parcel Service, Inc.? Mr. Gravett.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. The district brings for the board's consideration an agreement with United Parcel Service, Inc., known as UPS, which operates an aircraft maintenance facility near the Muhammad Ali International Airport. The plant is subject to a district-issued feeding permit. The district alleges that the UPS failed to provide records to the district in a reasonable time as required by their permit. In June of 2024, the district performed an on-site inspection at the UPS facility and as part of the routine inspection requested to review records. UPS was unable to provide records during the inspection, but made arrangements to provide them to the district. Throughout the summer, UPS did not provide the requested records to the district. Most of the requested records were finally submitted in September of 2024. These records were reviewed by the district and determined to show compliance with the permit requirements. As part of the resolution for this violation, UPS submitted documentation explaining corrective actions taken to prevent this from occurring in the future. This included improvements to their document management system, additional training for environmental staff, and a reoccurring internal meeting with their management team to discuss environmental oversight. The district made the agreed board order available for a 30-day public comment period, but did not receive any comments. The company has agreed to pay a penalty of $6,750 to resolve this notice of violation. The district recommends the board adopt the order as proposed.
Thank you. Ms. Robbins is the representative of UPS registered to make a comment.
They have not.
They're represented present here today in the Edison room. Okay. Is there any member of the public registered to make a comment?
No, they have not.
Thank you. Has any member of the public submitted a written statement? Nope. There are any members of the public in the Edison room wish to make a comment this morning? Nope. Okay. Are there any members of the public that wish to make a brief statement on this video teleconference? If so, please raise your hand via video teleconference. It will be called on. This is a feature you can find on the participants list. If you join us by phone, please press *3 and you will be called upon. Ms. Robbins?
See any hands raised.
Okay, moving along. Any questions by board members? Any questions, folks? They just misplaced the documents, Mr. Gavan.
Yeah, it was in their management system and they were not able to provide them to us in a timely fashion. I think it was more they weren't taking it as serious as they needed to rather than
Okay,
anything nefarious.
all right, well, this concludes the public hearing. Now we will go on to a roll call. When I call your name, please say here. Jeffrey Coburn.
Here.
Candace Shrove White,
Here.
thank you. Marissa Neal,
Here.
thank you. Charlie Bell. That's it. Sajad Jamil, I don't either. Charlie Bertolon,
Here.
thank you. We do have a quorum. Moving on to introductions, Ms. Hamilton.
I am extremely pleased this morning to be able to introduce you to Lannery O'Neill, who's joined the district this morning as our new assistant director. Ms. O'Neill, who was raised in Louisville, holds a master's degree in public health. She brings a wealth of experience to the role, including serving as the deputy director of the San Juan Basin, Colorado Public Health Department, and more recently in executive roles with the American Heart Association and Stroke Onward. We believe her skills can be extraordinarily put to good use in our program planning and overseeing of our administrative teams. We look forward to working with Ms. O'Neill and to the contributions that she'll make to our mission of improving Louisville's air quality.
Morning. It's wonderful to meet you all. I'm delighted to be here and part of the team.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, and we're glad that you're with us. We look forward to your contribution. Public recognitions.
Last month, we recognized our engineers during National Engineering Week. This week, we're going to take one slightly out of order. National STEM, Science, Technology, and Math Day is actually November 18th. But the nation is currently celebrating National STEM Festival, which recognizes students interested in STEM. So this morning, I'm going to recognize our environmental scientists and professionals who, like the engineering staff we recognized last month, work to improve our air quality. Many of our environmental professionals and scientists have undergraduate and graduate degrees in environmental science, chemistry, biology, sustainability. For example, our own Billy DeWitt, air monitoring program manager, is a meteorologist. These guys make our work happen and make our air cleaner. So thank you for letting me recognize them this month.
Well deserved. Congratulations. Includes engineers too in STEM, right? That's the E.
Well, I think we were already ready.
Okay.
Now twice.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the minutes, the regular meeting was held on February 19th. Those minutes were distributed electronically. Are there any changes or comments or edits to the meeting minutes by board members? Okay, hearing none, those minutes are approved. Moving on to the public comment section, Ms. Robbins, has anybody registered to make a comment this
No,
morning?
they have not.
Has anybody provided a written comment this morning?
No.
No. Any members of the public in the Edison room wish to make a comment, so please approach the podium. Take that as a no. Are there any members of the public that wish to make a brief statement on this video teleconference? If so, please raise your hand via video teleconference should be called on. This is a feature you can find on our participants list or by pressing *3 by phone, and you'll be called upon.
I see no raised hand.
Nobody? Thank you. This completes the comment portion of the meeting. There is no unfinished business. And under new business, we will come back to the agreed board order with United Parcel Service. The district has recommended that the board adopt the agreed board order with United Parcel Service, Inc. Is there a motion to adopt the agreed board order with United Parcel Service, Inc.?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
We'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussions from the board? Okay, we will now take a vote. Roll call vote. Unmute your mic. If you wish to adopt order, say yes. And if you do not, say no. Jeffrey Coburn,
Yes.
Candace Shrove White,
Yes.
Marissa Neal,
Yes.
Charlie Bertolon,
Yes.
and I vote yes. The agreed order of United Parcel Service, Inc. is adopted. On committee reports, there are no reports, but I will say that the Policy and Strategy Committees met this morning before this meeting and moved the changes to regulations to public comment period. And those regulations, I guess you should say, are 1.15, 5.02, and 7.02. Okay, quickly moving along to the director's report, Ms. Hamilton.
Well, good morning again, everyone. Let me welcome you today, this evening to spring. It's also the
Is
start
that
of,
today?
it is today.
Great.
So it may snow tomorrow,
Good.
but that's normal.
That's
for us.
perfect.
Yeah. It's also the start of ozone season that began on March 1st. As you may remember, ozone season here runs from March 1st through October 31st. You will see ozone air monitoring data in the April board report. So something for us to look forward to. Chairman Sullivan met with Billy DeWitt and myself earlier in the month to talk about how we represent our data in terms of sharing that in that air quality report to the board. Will Baughman with Billy DeWitt have worked together to try to share that information in perhaps a less math-centric way, a more visual way. And I think you'll begin to see those changes coming forward. We will focus on the pollutants of primary concern. Here in Louisville, that will be PM 2.5 and also ozone. We look forward to comments when we move to that new format. And it continues to be a work in progress. So
Will it come out as a draft for comment or it'll just come out?
We can give,
Either way.
surely give the board opportunity to comment before you change the format.
Okay, that would be great.
we'll give a presentation on it at a board meeting so you can kind of see it, what we envision it will look at. I'm sorry, what we envision it will look like. But as we go through that process, these reports that the board receives are intended to be helpful to the board. And they can always add information, or we can try to work a different way of showing it to you as we go along,
And there's always more in-depth information that's available too.
which we will probably provide in an appendix. If you really want to dig into the data, we can provide that, much like you see today. I wanted to note Dee Lynch, our community educator, went to Watterson Elementary in Buchel and spoke to 86 fifth graders in 3 homerooms on Thursday, January the 16th. She has received from each of those classes really phenomenal letters from the students. And I just wanted to make these available to the board. I've got a couple of those to share with you. Because it made me happy to see folks interested in air quality. They talked in particular about our Idle Free campaign and how that can help clear the air. They were also very graciously happy that Ms. Lynch came to speak with them. They're great letters. I'll make them available to you. All right, moving on. Yesterday, Randy Steinbachler, David Becker, and Mike Brown represented the district at the Spring Metro Career Fair, which was held at Slover Field. We're currently taking applications for a new grant-funded position. It's called the APCD Air Monitoring Project Coordinator. You can access that opportunity on Metro's jobs page. We're going to have a number of other opportunities for engineers, environmental professionals, and administrative staff, which we'll share with the board as they're posted, so that you can let folks know if they're looking for a position, that we have some great jobs for them to fill. This is a good time of year. Graduates are, looking for positions. And we hope that you'll encourage them to look at Metro. Any questions?
No.
I'll go ahead and let the board know. Sherry Staley will be retiring at the end of April. She may have already let you know. She's out today, which is why Ms. Robbins is helping, because Karen Thorne is also out. And she's leaving some big shoes. So we'll do something to recognize her at the April 16th. She's really been instrumental in helping us help the board with your work. As you may recall, the district is authorized under state law, specifically KRS Chapter 77. And there is a bill that has now been passed to the governor for his action. That's House Bill 137. It was titled An Act Relating to Air Monitoring that proposes to establish requirements for data that may be used by APCD, the Kentucky Division for Air Quality, who operate the air program in the rest of the Commonwealth, and private citizens. This is targeted towards citizen science and other data that may not meet certain data quality objectives. The limitation is that this can't be used in an enforcement action. It proposes to amend KRS 77 for the district and KRS 224 for the Division for Air Quality. As I said, that legislation has been passed by the General Assembly, and it's now with the governor where it's pending approval or veto. I do want to let folks know, this bill notwithstanding, APCD continues to be a supporter of emerging technologies and community science. If a resident is concerned about an air quality issue or believes that a violation of air quality regulations is occurring, we encourage them to let us know using whatever method they prefer. Videos, photos, phone calls, sensor data, email, any number of ways. Each give us the opportunity to follow up and investigate using our regulatory methods, which is our standard practice. Any questions about that?
How do I articulate this exactly? So that really has no impact on how the district is operated. Continue to receive that information, but relies on quality control data, for lack of a better phrase, for its enforcement actions. Is that accurate?
It isn't.
Okay.
It's not going to change our practice.
Right.
We'll sit down with folks and talk about whatever they have that's concerning them, whether that's photo, a video. And again, do want to be sure that folks understand that extra information and even sensor data, it's not necessary. Simple phone call. That's the way you want to communicate with us. Just call and talk to folks. That's what we need. Email works fine too. Metro call 311 will get complaints to us. Smell My City will get complaints to us. Those are all still legitimate ways to tell us of the concern.
Thank you.
I've got one. Is the item that is in progress with Governor Beshear, will this basically force individual citizens to have data that is deemed via an acceptable or standard technique versus maybe something that's a bit more subjective?
Well, it depends on its purpose, Charlie, or Mr. Bertolon. For federal law, there is a citizen suit provision, and this will not affect what a citizen could use
Okay.
to bring a federal civil suit. In Kentucky, if it's to be used for an enforcement purpose, it does have to meet some regulatory standards. And there are projects that people can undertake that will meet those regulatory objectives by
Okay.
using, say, for example, a certified lab that has a quality assurance project plan in place. And they can make a demonstration that that data has been collected and then analyzed in accordance with those rules.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. The Trump administration came out last week on March the 12th. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin announced the 5 pillars under which EPA will conduct its work. Those include clean air, land, and water for all, restore American energy dominance, permitting reform, cooperative federalism, cross-agency partnership, creating the United States is the AI capital of the world, and bringing back American auto jobs. Given those 5 pillars, they announced a series of 31 intended regulatory actions. Many of those are in the air program, about half. So I'm going to run through those just briefly. The first would be the reconsideration of the 2009 endangerment finding. That's where greenhouse gases were identified as under the Clean Air Act. Reconsideration of the Clean Power Plan 2.0, which addresses carbon emissions from existing power plants. Reconsideration of oil and gas industry regulations that address methane emissions. Reconsideration of mandatory greenhouse gas reporting, and reconsideration of light duty, medium duty, and heavy duty vehicle regulations that address greenhouse gas emissions. So those are kind of bundled together. The remainder include reconsideration of recently adopted risk management program rule revisions, reconsideration of mercury and air toxic standards for coal-fired power plants that were finalized in 2024, reconsideration of the particulate matter national ambient air quality standards. You may remember we talked about those last month. Those were adopted in February of 2024 and changed the standard from 12 micrograms per cubic meter to 9. Reconsideration of multiple national emission standards for hazardous air pollutants. Restructuring the regional haze program. This program requires state and federal agencies to work together to improve visibility in 156 national parks and wilderness areas, such as the Grand Canyon, Yosemite, the Great Smokies, and Shenandoah. Ending the Good Neighbor Plan, which required upwind states to take action to reduce nitrogen oxide, precursor of ozone, on downwind states in order to address the 2015 ozone national ambient air quality standards. Working with states and tribes to resolve backlogs with EPA state implementation plans. EPA under the first Trump administration did a large lean project looking at backlogs and state implementation plans, and Region 4 had a big one. It worked well. Currently, they estimate that there are about 322 state implementation plans that have been deemed to exceed EPA's timeframes to act under the Clean Air Act. That's a lot. And then there's another 300 and some that are stalled. So we'll see how that works out.
Can I ask a question about that? So state implementation plan suggests it's a statewide plan, but obviously it's not. It's local jurisdictions as well. Can you define what that means?
Can. It is actually called a state implementation plan. In some jurisdictions, the state develops the whole state implementation plan. And then the local program simply implements that, kind of derivative. Here in Louisville, we're a little bit different. Because of our independent authorization under KRS 77, we have a memorandum of agreement with the Kentucky Division for Air Quality that for things that relate to planning and development of that Jefferson County portion of the Kentucky State Implementation Plan. And if you look in 40 CFR, I think it's part 920, you'll see the Commonwealth Plan, and you'll see that Jefferson County portion. We developed that Jefferson County portion because we operate under a grant of concurrent jurisdiction with the cabinet. We send our state implementation plan regulations, redesignation requests to the cabinet. They review it for concurrence to be sure it's at least as stringent as their program. And then they submit it on behalf of the district for the Jefferson County portion of the Kentucky State Implementation Plan.
So does every municipality have its own state implementation plan? Like in Kentucky, it's 120 of them? Because you had mentioned basically 600 of them that are, right?
Those would be 600 across the nation.
I get that.
Yeah.
So like how many are here in this state? Or
So-
in half of that matter?
That's a great question. And because we deal with pollutants, those criteria pollutants in particular, are addressed there under that state implementation plan. We typically deal with particulate matter, carbon monoxide, ozone, and sulfur dioxide, to name a few, on an independent basis. There are, for example, here in Jefferson County, we have issues with PM and ozone. We have work that represents the state implementation plan. For ozone, we have a 10-year maintenance plan for each of the standards. Sometimes those have to be extended. We have redesignation requests. We have submittals that are a plan to bring the area into attainment. So there's independent pieces of things that address one pollutant, multiple submittals. And then depending on an area, the state, for example, has several areas that are in non-attainment for the sulfur dioxide standard. So each of those counties will need to have a plan. The state will do that as.
Okay.
The other things that they're looking to work on is reconsideration of the exceptional events rule. In particular, looking at prescribed fires. We're going to talk about the exceptional event rule here in just a moment. But the last thing that they're looking to do is reconstitute the Science Advisory Board and the Clean Air Scientific Advisory Committee. Those are the bodies that independently review most up-to-date health and environmental-based science to advise EPA on things like those national ambient air quality standards. Now, the administration terminated the last Clean Air Scientific Advisory Committee and the Science Advisory Board, and they're now taking applications for new members. I've passed that information on to colleagues at the University of Louisville in the hopes that some of the great researchers and faculty there will apply to be posted to those committees.
They have criteria for those committees that require balance, if you will. Again, a lack of a better word, but
I'm not sure.
kind of like the district board is
I'm-
constituted in a balanced way.
I'm not sure if they're political party parity issues.
No,
Um,
even past big and small P, industrial versus private versus.
Yes,
Okay.
and there are also opportunities for air pollution control agencies
Okay.
to have people on there. Our colleague in Georgia, Dr. Jim Boylan, has been on the CASAC. And what that does is it adds a voice of, here's what we know because we implement these rules about what that particular recommendation would mean if we put that into practice. So
I
yeah,
have a follow-up question, Steve's question. Yours concerned balance. My question concerns competence and qualifications, which would be key to that board since it's a scientific advisory board. And I have to say,
my recollection is that
I have to say, considering some of the cabinet appointees, one must wonder about that. So are there qualifications like having degrees in these areas or having professional experience in these areas?
there are, and it's my recollection that it's a public process. There'll be a call for nominations, there'll be a posting of the nominees, and a call for comment. So it will be a more transparent process. And yes, the expectation is that they'll have the appropriate expertise in order to help guide that work. I'll let you know
Well,
if I can.
you happen to know, like for the current or the previous, you said it's been dismissed. Do they, are there a mix of people, say, from academia and industry? there.
It skews very heavily towards the academic side, but there are industrial representatives on there. Again, there are representatives from air pollution control agencies too. But it is heavily academic.
I see. Okay. But, yeah. Well, thanks for providing these details because I've been reading the press reports and you don't often get all of that.
But we'll be sure, and if we see the if we see the Clean Air Science Advisory Council Committee and the Science Advisory, when we see those call for mentions and then those postings, if I can grab it and send it out, I'll do so. There is a website dedicated to both the Clean Air Science Advisory Committee and the Science Advisory Board. So if you're interested, you can take a look there. There's a spot where they have call for nominations. Wasn't active as of the end of last week. But they may have activated that now. I do want to make an important reminder, not to get lost in the list of things that EPA intends to work on. That in order to roll back a regulation, it takes just as much work as it does to propose a regulation. That means that there will be publication of the proposed rule, the basis on which the proposal is being made, and an opportunity for the public to comment. Generally speaking, that process takes some time. Undoubtedly, many of these decisions will be followed by litigation. That too will take some time. We will keep the board advised as these regulatory initiatives are announced. Provide you with some information about what's proposed. Like more information, we can at that time dig deeper. But again, keep in mind, there is a process and we'll look forward to having that process play out. Any questions? All right. Lauren Robbins and I are going to co-present this morning on the district's 2023 ozone wildfire exceptional event. This is the final report. It's available on our website. So we're going to walk through it this morning at a very 30,000 foot view. And if needed, the public comment period will extend through April the 18th. We'll meet again on April 16th. If we need to provide additional detail or information, we'll be prepared on the 16th.
And that did go out today or yesterday or?
It should be, we've opened the public comment period today. Right back here. Okay. All right, Andy. 2023 ozone wildfire exceptional event demonstration. Next slide, please, Andy. Okay, just a brief refresher. Ozone is not a directly emitted pollutant. It is created via a chemical reaction in the ambient air when nitrogen oxides mix with volatile organic compounds that are present in the sunlight to form a new pollutant called ozone. And again, it's mainly a warmer month phenomenon. We do start here March 1st. We have seen ozone formation in early April before. Knock on wood. We have a low ozone year. So ozone impacts are reported through the air quality index. That's where we let folks know on a daily basis about our air quality. And if we're going to possibly have an issue for sensitive groups, they may want to choose to exercise, for example, in the morning, or perhaps even higher. Exposure to higher concentrations can cause respiratory issues. Next slide. To some extent, I feel that this word is overused with respect to the Canadian wildfires. They were unprecedented. There were over 42 million acres of Canadian forest burned during the summer of 2023. Unfortunately, they overlapped with ozone season. Those fires were both in Quebec and also Western Canada. It did cause billions of dollars of property damage and displaced hundreds of thousands of people. Products of combustion, whether it's fuel or wood, include volatile organic compounds and nitrogen oxides, those precursors of ozone. Next slide, please, Andy. As a result of these wildfires, the Midwestern United States experienced increased surface ozone pollution. As a result of those wildfires, we issued numerous air quality alerts throughout the summer of 2023. And many in the room will remember how apocalyptic our sunsets looked, the late afternoons looked when that smoke was present in our area. Next slide, please, Andy. The Indiana Department of Environmental Management, Jeffersonville Bates Boyer Avenue PM 2.5 monitor, which was also heavily impacted by the same Canadian wildfire smokes event, has submitted a PM 2.5 demonstration to US EPA on February 6, 2025. Clark County, where this monitoring station is located, is part of our metropolitan statistical area. Their current design value is above 9 micrograms per cubic meter, even taking into account the 2022-2024 design value. And so the wildfire smoke impacts to particulate matter have regulatory significance for IDEM. That's why they have submitted what is a 600-page exceptional event demonstration for 30-some days, going back as far as 2022, where they believe they've had impacts appropriate for an exceptional event relief. We evaluated the 2023 wildfire impacts on our particulate matter data and determined that for us, for regulatory purposes, we did not need to submit an exceptional event demonstration for particulate matter, given that we early certified our 24 data and we meet the 9 microgram per cubic meter standard today. Any questions about that?
Okay, putting regulatory, no longer secretary hat back on. So because this is a regulatory process, I'm going to talk to you all about the rule and what to look for when you read our demonstration, the certain requirements under the exceptional event rule that we have demonstrated. So because of everything that Rachel just explained, the Clean Air Act does recognize that in certain instances, like the Canadian wildfires, including all of our monitoring data when these exceptional events occur is not always appropriate. Next slide, please, Andy. So with that in mind, the EPA and the Clean Air Act created the exceptional events rule to the federal rule. Next slide, please, Andy.
Is that a rule that came about because of the wildfire season, or is it predate that?
It predates the
Okay.
wildfires.
Okay.
So I am not going to read, I have this slide and the next slide are the 8 main requirements of the exceptional event rule that we have demonstrated in our demonstration to EPA. I'm not going to read it all to you right now, but I will highlight just a few things. The first one is the narrative conceptual model. A lot of what Rachel just explained, kind of setting the groundwork, explaining the Canadian wildfires and what happened in the summer of 2023, and how that impacted our emissions, the meteorological conditions at the time in summer 2023. That is, our narrative conceptual model leading into our demonstration. And number 2 and number 3 are the bulk of our demonstration. So I will read those to you all. It's a demonstration that the event affected air quality in such a way that there is a clear causal relationship, and that's the key part, between the specific event and the monitored exceedance or violation. And that's tied into number 3, which is analyses comparing the event influenced concentrations to concentrations at the same monitoring station at other times to support number 2 above. I will also touch on number 4, which requires that we demonstrate that the event was both not reasonably controllable and not reasonably preventable. Andy, if you'll go to the next slide, please. I'll also touch on number 5 and number 7. 5 requires that we show that the event was either a human activity that is unlikely to occur at a particular location, or that it was a natural event. In our case, it was a natural event. And number 7, completion and documentation of the public comment process, which I will talk about at the very end, and let you all know how to comment if you would like. Next slide, please, Andy.
Question for you. If you can show that an event elevated ozone, are you automatically given dispensation to remove that data from the calculation?
Unfortunately not. We have to go through this process. And Lauren will touch on a little bit more about 3 different tiers of evidence that we have to provide to US EPA for their concurrence. So that's what we're looking for at the end of this process is EPA's analysis of the submittal and their agreement that for the days presented, that data can be excluded from calculation of our design value.
But ultimately, that's what happens. It gets included.
Yes.
Yes, if they concur.
Okay.
So it's automatically concluded, and then you've got to basically show enough data to get them to remove it.
That's correct.
I'm sorry?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Next slide, Andy. I'm going to go into a little bit more of the demonstration now. So that chart on the screen, if everyone can see it, those are the 9 days that we have deemed exceptional event days and for which we are requesting EPA concurrence. So what we were just talking about, excluding those days from our design value. Those were the days where the daily maximum 8-hour average for ozone was greater than 70 parts per million. And the tiers that Rachel was just mentioning, you'll see in the far right column, EPA has 3 tiers of analysis for a clear causal relationship. You'll see most of ours are tier 3, except for one on June 28th. That is our tier 1 day. But tier 1 days have the clearest causal relationship, and they require the least amount of evidence to show that there was an exceptional event that day. Tier 3 is the highest, you have more weight of evidence that we need to show that clear causal relationship. But as Rachel mentioned before with items presentation for PM 2.5, we believe that there is regulatory significance because if we exclude these exceptional event days, our design value will bring us into attainment for ozone, for the ozone next. Next slide, please, Andy.
Can I ask another question?
Go ahead, sorry.
Can you go back to the last slide? How many of those days do you have to eliminate to get attainment? All of them?
6 out of 9.
6 out of 9, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Andy. So this chart, I don't know if anyone can see, but at the very top, it's talking about June 2nd specifically, but a chart just like this will be at the end of each section and each exceptional event day. So this is summarizing all of the evidence methods that I'm about to go through individually. But at the end of each exceptional event day, so for all of them, you will be able to just look at it all in chart form. So again, I'm going to go through this at a pretty high level. Andy, if you can go to the next slide, please. So the first evidence method, there are 10. Like I said, I'm going to try to go through these at a pretty high level. The first one is ozone diurnal profile for event day compared to historical average profile. So as Rachel discussed at the beginning, given sunlight's role in ozone formation, this method looks at daily fluctuations of ozone concentrations and highlights atypical concentrations throughout each event day, exceptional event day. Next slide, please, Andy. So the second one is essentially the same as the first one, except this one is with PM 2.5 and carbon monoxide. Same method, we're just looking at different ozone precursors.
So the historical average profiles, are those related day or? What does that mean?
I believe, so. I might also defer to Billy or Brian. Either of them know the exact
I mean, what's the historical profile? How's that derived?
So it's a 24-hour day, average 24-hour profile.
For the same day?
I think they're average over for just this summer. We're looking at one specific day, kind of comparing that
To a whole? Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Ryan. Any other questions on this one? Okay, next slide, please, Andy. The third method is the MODIS satellite true color imagery. So these are images captured by NASA satellites that allow us to see the smoke plumes in certain instances. They were daily snapshots and they were inspected for wildfire smoke impacts for each exceptional event day. They display the fires in orange and smoke plumes are visible in the image as well. Next slide, please, Andy. Evidence method number 4 is EPA's Air Now PM 2.5 and ozone AQI maps. Those are our air quality index values. So we can see for each of the exceptional event days whether or not, it's moderate, unhealthy for sensitive groups, unhealthy, et cetera, for each of the days, and whether or not we issued an air quality alert. Next slide. Number 5 is the Hazard Mapping Service, or HMS, fire and smoke plume maps. On this, you will see Cannons Lane, which is the monitor that we are using in the demonstration, as a blue dot on the map, and then fire locations will be noted along with smoke plume classifications on the map. And we did that for the 5 days prior to the exceedance, as well as the exceedance day itself. Next slide. And this one is very similar to number 5. This is Blue Sky Canada Smoke Forecasting System. Again, you will see Cannons Lane marked on the map, as well as plotted fires and smoke plume. This is just modeled for near surface PM 2.5 for the 5 days prior to the exceedance day, as well as the exceedance day. Next slide, please, Andy. Number 7 is the high split 4-day back trajectories overlaid on HMS smoke and fire maps. So these trace the path backward of the air parcels in time in order to see the fire and smoke path. They're plotted at 3 heights simultaneously for each day. So this can help tell us if it's coming from Quebec or Western Canada. See what fire it was. Next slide, please, Andy.
Excuse me, what are the 3 heights?
Do not know off the top of my head. I don't know if either of them know.
So I have,
Do you have their?
I do have
500, Bill Hogan.
It's, yeah,
Yeah.
all right.
We will look into that and method number 8 is the Lee and Jaffe 2024 Generalized Additive Model, or GAM. So this approach allowed for more detailed and flexible modeling. They used factors including maximum temperature, trajectory distance, relative humidity, trajectory water vapor, trajectory direction, and day of year to estimate the daily maximum 8-hour average for ozone.
Dr. Coburn, those are
Copy answer.
plotted at heights of 50, 100, and 500 meters.
Okay. Next slide, please, Andy. Number 9 was the matching day ozone increment analysis. This is the requirement number 3 that I talked about from the exceptional event rule beforehand. So our contractor performed a matching analysis for the 9 event days, which means they compared ozone concentrations on meteorologically similar days with and without wildfires. Next slide, please, Andy. And then the last method, number 10, is the EMBER photochemical grid model estimated fire contributions to ozone. So after the significant amount of exceptional event demonstrations that were coming through, EPA created this screening level data set of 2023 ozone fire impacts in the United States. Their tool displays the ozone monitoring days that may have been impacted by fire emissions in summer of 2023. So this came out this past December, just a couple months ago on December 13th. They hosted a webinar on January 14th, 2025, and some of us from the district went to this presentation to just learn a little bit more about the tool and how to implement it. Next slide, please, Andy.
Question for you.
Go ahead.
Of the 10 evidence points areas, how many of them do you have to show as high level of correlation to what's being claimed?
That's a really great question. There is no magic number that we can discern. These are very fact specific evaluations. While we can look at some ozone exceptional event demonstrations that EPA has concurred on in the past, there's a real significant difference here, and that is distance. The tier 2 analysis that Lauren didn't mention is actually one where EPA has they call it the QD analysis. And it's looking at the quantity of nitrogen oxides that were released during the fire divided by the distance. And if you have, at the end of that analysis, 100 tons of nitrogen oxide released in that fire, by the time it hits your monitor, that is a more simple, easier kind of analysis. It didn't fit here. So we're really in kind of an unusual spot in that these fires, again, unprecedented, the distance, we're going to have to wait and see how EPA evaluates that. That is why there are a number of different analyses used here. One of the other things that, is discussed in the report is that there is some air quality science that indicates that our understanding of how ozone is formed, too much NOx close to a monitor, close to an area, may actually scrub ozone, but that plume is now being studied that as it ages and moves away from its source, it actually becomes more intensive in how much ozone it can form. We've got a lot of methodology here because we want to be sure that we're giving EPA what they need. I will note that the exceptional event demonstration is kind of different than our SIP submittals. When we make a submittal to EPA, we've worked with them throughout. There shouldn't be any surprises to them by the time it comes to them for approval, but they may approve it or deny it. Exceptional event demonstrations by rule give EPA a chance, once we respond to the comments and send it on to them for concurrence, to reach back out to us if they believe that there is additional evidence that may support a finding of concurrence. It's more collaborative. It is not as bright line in terms of pass or fail as SIP submittals are.
Thank you.
So stay tuned. It's the best I can say.
Okay, so that's all for the clear causal relationship method or evidence methods. This one, the not reasonably controllable or preventable, is tied into requirement number 4 that I mentioned before under the exceptional event rule. And the Canadian wildfires, they burn boreal forests, which meet the definition of wildlands, and in turn meet the criteria for both not reasonably controllable and not reasonably preventable.
Okay, so reasonably controllable by whom? For example, there's no way that APCD can reasonably control many events that occur outside its boundaries. So does that fall under the reasonably controllable? You know what I mean?
I do. And I've looked at a fair number of exceptional event demonstrations, but I have not seen one rejected on the basis that it was reasonably controllable. Arson fires may fall within that. You can enforce arson laws. And so it might be perceived as reasonably controlled.
I get that locally, but if it's arson fire and some of these people in California have been charged with arson on their fire, so would that impact the designation for ABCD?
We would make an argument that it
If
doesn't.
that's not,
Right.
right?
Next slide, please, Andy. This goes to requirement number 5. This is either a natural event or a human event not likely to recur. In our case, it is a natural event. A natural event is defined as an event and its resulting emissions which may recur at the same location in which human activity plays little or no direct causal role. And according to NASA, many of Canada's fires in 2023 were started by summer lightning storms. So therefore they qualify as natural events. Next slide, please, Andy. So in conclusion, the district believes that the weight of evidence supports our demonstration and our recommendation to EPA that the unprecedented Canadian wildfires in the summer of 2023 caused the ozone exceedances at Cannons Lane on the 9 days that we have presented and were exceptional events. So I'm going to discuss the public comment process next. But after we receive all the comments and respond to all the comments, those will be submitted to EPA along with our demonstration to EPA headquarters to evaluate. But we believe we've satisfied the 8 requirements that I discussed earlier of the exceptional event rule, and that our demonstration is supporting events. Next slide, please, Andy. You can go forward one more. One more, Andy. Thank you. So no, you can go back. Sorry. There we go. So as Rachel mentioned, the public comment period has opened. It opened this morning. It will be open until 5 p.m. on April 18th, 2025. You can comment in writing online. We have an online public comment form on our website. You can also mail your comment to me directly here at the district. You can also get a copy of the demonstration on our website under proposed actions, or you can contact us and we will mail you a copy if that is your preference. That is all I have.
Next slide, Andy. So this has been a tremendous amount of work for the district. We first had to analyze all the PM 2.5 data because we were until the mid-November, we could see what our PM 2.5 data for 2024 would be, concurrently preparing a PM 2.5 exceptional event demonstration. We did all that work. We have it in reserve should we need it, but we will not be submitting. At the same time, we began working on the ozone. We are, as explained Ms. Bertolon, in a bit of uncharted territory. Our colleagues at EPA Region 4, who we consulted with as we were preparing our ozone demonstration, indicated that we were the first ones trying to do this in Region 4, and perhaps the only. And we were working prior to EPA's publication of that EMBER model. The EMBER model is an incredible tool. It has some limitations, as all models do, particularly as it evaluates the Western Canada wildfires that impacted our area. But by and large, it would have streamlined a lot of our earlier work had it come out earlier. Having it here in December did cause us to go back and reevaluate the work, evaluate the model, and then move forward with our demonstration. This work could not have been done without our air monitoring team. Brian Paris understands our air chemistry and the data that we have in a way that has proved incredibly valuable. And Billy's leadership of his team with Dr. Mita Sessler and Maloney in really digging in to be sure that those 9 days we believe are supportable. I also would like to thank our program planning team, Lauren Robbins, Will Boffman, Matt Mudd, who reviewed the exceptional event demonstration in very short order to be sure that it read as clear as it could for the public. They are awesome at proofreading, not just the English part of the report, but also the data part. So we're grateful for their work on this project. Any questions at this point?
I gotta make a comment that, given the distance that the culprit of these events is, which is Canadian, some of which are way on the west coast, how can all the data not be similar to all these people who are submitting these analyses between here and somewhere else? It seems so redundant.
We've made recommendations to you as EPA that should we experience an event like this going forward, that in lieu of having us independently undertake this demonstration, which is time consuming and expensive.
Redundant to every agency doing it.
Yes, and to some extent, they've tried to answer that question for this last event with that Ember model for ozone. But again, that didn't come out until
Yeah.
December of last year, and we didn't get to see it until January of this year. That it would be better for us. EPA bites the bullet and does the exceptional event demonstration for the national impacts, provides us an opportunity to concur, has public notice and comment in all the areas that need or have a regulatorily significant need for relief under that exceptional event demonstration, and provide us an opportunity, should we not concur, to provide additional weight of evidence to support a finding of exceptional events.
You're moving that direction, you think?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
The exceptional event demonstration work that EPA is going to undertake for prescribed providers may give us an opportunity to again raise that with the new administration. It's when we raised with the prior administration. We will do that.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll never have a need to use it. Any other questions?
Interesting stuff. Thank you. All right, kind of to the report section, there's been some, obviously discussion a little bit about looking at the format's going to change, obviously the data's the data. So again, if you have comments as board members, please provide those. I don't know if you had opportunity to look at the reports. I don't know if they're any different really than what we have been seeing in regards to ozone and PM 2.5. We'll see what happens next month. Is there any comments on the reports as distributed? Okay. If not, I will adjourn the meeting. Next meeting will be Wednesday, April 16th at 2025 at 10 a.m. And again, if you haven't signed in, you would like to sign in, please do so. Thanks for coming.